Hello, Wonderhussy here, blazing along the highway in the San Francisco Bay Area, about to pass by something really weird. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, gee, Wonderhussy, this is the Bay Area, home of Oakland, San Francisco, Berkeley. What out here isn't weird? Well, trust me, this is really weird. Ah! Did you see it? Maybe I need to slow it down so you can get a better look. That's right, it's an outhouse, way out in the middle of a marsh, all by itself. It's something I've driven by probably dozens of times, but I'm usually blazing along this highway in a hurry to get where I'm going, so I've never had time to check it out until today. Okay, I'm up here at the very farthest northern part of the San Francisco Bay. Okay, if you look at the San Francisco Bay on a map, you can see that, well, not only does it go all the way down around San Francisco, but it stretches way up north into wine country. And I guess technically this part of the bay is called the San Pablo Bay, or San Pablo, I'm not sure how they pronounce it. Anyway, I'm way up at the northernmost part of the bay by this Richard Fresh Air Jansen Bridge, which that's something else I've always been curious about. Who was this Richard Fresh Air Jansen? Well, guess what? He ties into the story of the lone toilet, which is what this place is called on Google Maps. Believe it or not, this outhouse in the middle of a marsh is actually marked on Google Maps as the lone toilet. And I think it has 5-star reviews. And I plan to go find out for myself if this really is a 5-star toilet. I think if my online research is correct, we should be able to just walk right out to that outhouse. Even though it is in the middle of a marsh, I'm here at the very end of June, so things are pretty dry right now. The marsh level looked pretty low out the window. I forgot to bring my galoshes, so I'm gonna try to do this in hiking boots, and hopefully I can make it out there without sinking in the muck up to my armpits. Because not only do I not have my galoshes, well, I don't have any kind of kayak or raft with me either. So we're gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. There's this trail that looks like it goes right under the Richard Fresh Air Jansen Bridge out to the marsh where this toilet is. Now, I often get emails from people saying, oh, Wonderhussy, you could film anything and it would be interesting. I mean, you could just sit there and read the phone book and we'd watch it. Well, me going to explore a toilet is gonna put that to the test. Okay, we're heading under the bridge. We are under Highway 37. That's right, if you've ever driven on 37, this is what it looks like from underneath. Pretty exciting. And there's some amazing graffiti down here. Broken promises, Homer Simpson with no mouth, titties. And don't you remember in 2024 when I purchased that paint? I'm not sure what that means, but I do know that this outhouse is just ahead in the middle of this marsh, waiting for us to check it out. How exciting! Now I know if you're not from the San Francisco Bay Area, you probably do think this is kind of a weird thing to go check out, but I mean, if you are from this area and you've driven this highway, it goes to the NASCAR racetrack. It used to be called Sears Point Raceway, then it was called Infineon Raceway, now I think it's called the Sonoma Raceway. It goes from Vallejo to Petaluma, basically, from the East Bay over to the Peninsula, or to the North Bay, and a lot of people drive it every dang day. Okay, I gotta pay attention because, well, we're nice and dry right here, walking on this grass, but the trail dead ends at this creek, and it looks pretty ooey gooey, even though there's not a lot of water in it. I'll bet you I would sink up to my armpits like quicksand if I tried to step in it. And like I said, I don't even have my galoshes. So I'm gonna follow this. It looks like there's kind of like a footpath here. Many other people have gone to visit this outhouse, and maybe it'll lead me to a place where I can cross this creek. If my online research is correct, there should be a little wooden plank, kind of like a very simple bridge you can cross up here. Nice to know I'm not the only one weird enough to actually figure out a way to park and hike out to this thing. Plenty of people have done so before me. And in fact, there's even an episode of Bay Area Backroads where the guy came out here and investigated this lonely outhouse. Bay Area Backroads is a TV show, I guess, where this guy goes around checking out weird stuff around the Bay Area. Kind of like my channel, but he's specifically focused on the San Francisco Bay Area. Well, he did an episode where he came out here and he actually found the guy, or the grandson of the guy, who built this thing. Okay, yikes. I gotta focus, man. I could step in mud with every footstep. I really gotta be careful where I place my feet. I shouldn't be yakking to my camera. I should be paying attention and trying to figure out a way to get to this dang outhouse without getting covered in mud. Okay, on the Bay Area Backroads show, the guy brought a little raft, a rubber dinghy. He came out here in winter when there was much more water. I guess this creek and these marshes in general, I mean, the San Francisco Bay, or San Pablo Bay, is right on the other side of that bridge. So, you know, water seasonally comes flooding in here. And sometimes, I'll bet you anything, that little toilet is just like a tiny island in a sea of brackish tidal marsh water. But like I said, it doesn't look too bad right now. I mean, there's a place here that I could almost get across. I don't see a bridge anywhere. This just looks like it's going to be real soft mud. Oh, well, it's not actually. You can stand on it. Uh-oh. Oh my God. Do I trust myself to hop across this though? I don't know. Yikes. Oh my God. Yeah, there's a footprint on the other side. I think I just got to go for it. Oh my God. Are you ready? If we fail, we sink into the muck. But if we make it, well, victory is ours. Let's do it. Ah! Ah! I made it! Oh my God! And I didn't get too much mud on my boots. How about that? Yeah, there is a spot here where it's pretty easy to hop across. So now we're on the other side, the outhouse side. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty dang excited. Now, if anybody driving along this highway happens to look over here, which, you know, they probably do just to check on the old lone toilet, and they see some random figure wading through the weeds, well, they're probably thinking I'm pretty weird right about now, but guess what? I'd rather be doing this than driving on the highway any old day. Okay, there's absolutely no trail to this thing, so we're just bushwhacking through this very interesting grasses. They're kind of almost like a succulent. In fact, it is some kind of succulent, some kind of tidal sea succulent. Really interesting, and it's not bad to walk on, and it is pretty dry at this time of year, but you definitely wouldn't want to come out here in the winter or spring. This would be one giant mess. Well, you wouldn't want to come out here unless you had a good pair of waders. In fact, if I had a good pair of waders, I actually think it'd be fun to go mucking around in that spring. Okay, guess what? We've arrived at the lone toilet of San Pablo Bay, I guess. I'm not sure what its full name is, but golly, I know it's a toilet, but it's just so rustic and weathered that I think it's kind of picturesque. And yes, I am weird, but I don't know, I live for stuff like this, you know? Taking the time to stop and smell the roses or check out the stinky old toilet, as the case may be. That's what life is all about. You know, all these people rushing back and forth across this highway, I bet none of them have made time to actually park, hike out here, and just, you know, check it out. So this is one of those things that actually makes me feel kind of good about my life choices. Okay, well, you can see it's an old, rustic, really cool, weathered wooden outhouse. It even had a window, pretty fancy for an outhouse. And as advertised, there's a porcelain toilet in it. How about that? Okay, according to the other video I watched about this outhouse was built in the 1920s, so it's almost 100 years old. And back then, it didn't have a porcelain toilet in it. It was an actual outhouse with just a round hole cut in the seat. In fact, I think there were 2 holes so that you could sit there and have a conversation while you were doing your business. But sometime in the intervening 100 years, somebody came along and put a real fancy porcelain toilet, like from a real house out here. I guess, well, there's still an outhouse hole behind it, and it's not going to be gross because no one's used this outhouse forever, guys. It's just the marsh down below, but I don't know where the second hole was. They said in the other video that there were 2 holes. So I'm not sure what they were talking about unless that was one hole and the toilet was the other one. Which I kind of find it hard to imagine 2 people sitting in a line like that pooping. But what do I know? I do know that in the Bay Area Backroads video, the guy who made that opened the toilet and, well, at least he implied or made it seem like somebody had actually pooped in it. And as gross as people are, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a turd in there. I don't know. Do you think I should open the toilet and see if there's anything in it? I'm gonna do it just because I'm curious. You guys don't have to look. I'll take one for the team. Whoa! Well, it's pretty gross, but there's no human turds in it, or any turds of any sort. Okay, here's your warning. I'm gonna look in there. It's just an old potato chip bag with like mud and rainwater and lots and lots of cobwebs. But it's probably about 50 black widows living in this toilet. Yikes. I guess I'll go ahead and close her up so the black widows can have their piece. Okay, well, that's it. That's the famous lone toilet. Now I finally scratched my itch, and next time I'm driving down Highway 37 and see the turlet off in the distance, well, I can wave at it like saying hi to an old friend. A mystery no more. Actually, while I'm out here, I might as well walk around the whole thing and see. You never know, there might be something really cool on the back. You know, that could be where the real action is. What if there's like a secret speakeasy bar back here? Unfortunately, there isn't. It's just the back wall of weathered wood sitting out in this marsh for 100 years and still standing, which is actually pretty impressive when you think of all the stuff that's happened in this area in the last 100 years. I mean, I'm not even talking about riots and all kinds of crazy killings and stuff like that. Well, there's been wildfires, there have been terrible storms, hurricanes, and this old outhouse, well, apparently it was built to last. In fact, you might even say it was built like a brick shit house, only it's made of wood. Okay, so your next question probably is, well, why did this dude's grandpa build an outhouse out in the middle of nowhere? I mean, again, we are truly in the middle of, well, technically we're in the middle of the Bay Area, which is one of the biggest population centers in the entire country, but this particular part of the Bay Area is very desolate. I mean, these are tidal marshlands that I guess way back in the day, they built a series of levees and dikes and tried to turn it into agricultural land. And so there was a town out here, I think pretty much right where we're standing, called Tubbs, Tubbs, Tubbs. So there was, I think this is still called Tubbs Island, what we're on. So I guess you could call this the lone toilet of Tubbs Island. Anyway, there was a town called Tubbs here, and this dude built like a duck hunting shack. I guess this is a popular area for waterfowl hunting and bird watching. I mean, I think it's absolutely beautiful out here. I know a lot of people might go, oh God, what a desolate landscape, but well, you know me and my desolate landscapes. Anyway, like I was saying, guys like to come out here and go duck hunting. So this dude built a duck hunting cabin, and I guess this outhouse was a part of his cabin. And apparently other people who lived on Tubbs Island would come use his outhouse. And I'm not sure why. I guess maybe nobody else in the town of Tubbs had a toilet. I mean, golly, don't you at least have to have some kind of pit in the ground to do your business? I'm not sure. According to the dude's grandson that I saw in that video, he said many people in Tubbs used his grandpa's toilet, including the guy that bridge is named after. Okay, remember Richard Fresh Air Jansen? Well, I guess Richard Jansen, come to find out, was a really interesting character. He was kind of a bohemian artist who settled out here in this marsh back in the, gosh, I don't know, 50s, 60s. And he lived out here on some kind of weird floating barge. It sounded really interesting. He carved wooden duck decoys to make money. And I guess he lived out here in the town of Tubbs for many years and became such a prominent or noteworthy local nut that the grandson of the guy who built this outhouse paid the state of California to name that bridge after him. Now, technically, the way he got the name Fresh Air is, before he moved out here, Richard Jansen was a sailor. Okay, he sailed the 7 seas as some kind of carpenter. And when he slept on the boat, he always preferred to sleep up on the deck in the fresh air, that fresh sea air. And so his nickname was Fresh Air Dick. He was known, even when he lived out here, as Fresh Air Dick. Well, guy tried to get the state of California to name this the Fresh Air Dick Jansen Bridge. And the state of California said, no way, no dicks on bridge names. So that's why it just says the Richard Fresh Air Jansen Bridge to this day. Which, I don't know, I thought was pretty interesting. Like I said, I always wondered who this Richard Fresh Air Jansen was. Little did I expect him to be this interesting. I mean, some kooky bohemian artist who lived on a barge in a marsh and used a shared outhouse. I mean, how much kookier can you get? Even by Bay Area standards. Although I will say, I've heard there's a guy named Klaus who lives on some kind of floating barge island in the middle of the Delta over by Antioch in the East Bay. And he sounds pretty dang interesting. Unfortunately, I think he's in his 80s and he's not in great health. So I always wanted to go try to visit this mysterious Klaus of the Delta. And if anybody watching this video knows Klaus, and Klaus is in good enough health that he would welcome a visitor, I heard if you bring him, there's a certain kind of beer he likes, you can go hang out on his barge and he's got all these weird musical instruments. Anyway, I digress. I'm not here to talk about Klaus of the Delta. I'm here to talk about the lone toilet of Tubbs Island. So yeah, there used to be a whole town called Tubbs somewhere right out here in this vicinity. The toilet is the only thing really left standing, although you can see there are some really old weathered pieces of like an old pier or something leading to the toilet, or maybe leading to the duck hunting shack, or I don't know. I mean, a town out here in a marsh like this, maybe there had to be raised sidewalks all throughout town. That actually sounds super cool, like living in a sort of like a liminal zone between land and sea, you know, living out here in the marshes. I've always been fascinated by marshes. So yeah, I can imagine a series of funky little shacks or barges, as the case may be, connected by a system of wooden walkways would be a really interesting place to live. But all that's left now is the occasional piece of weathered wood poking up out of the wetlands like a ghost of years gone by, like the ghost of Fresh Air Dick. How about that? Wouldn't you love to be haunted by the ghost of Fresh Air Dick? I mean, if you have to be haunted by a ghost, it might as well be him. Okay, anyway, there might not be anything left to the town of Tubbs other than this outhouse and a few old boards, but this entire marshland is full of old ruins. I guess there used to be a bunch of old towns out here. Remember, I said they built a series of dikes and levees and tried to turn this into farmland. So there were actually a bunch of old towns out here. Now, most of them have sunken into the muck, which is the case with Tubbs, and poor Fresh Air Dick's barge is somewhere buried here, probably under 5 feet of silt and gnarliness. But there is a ghost town that apparently you can still see several buildings standing in over that way somewhere, and it's way too far and way too treacherous to get there on foot. So I'm gonna go back to my car and try to drive out there and check it out for myself. That is, if I can make it back across this creek in one piece. Yikes. Oh my God, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. How did I get over here? Yikes. Ah! Oh dear. Actually, before I leave this strange part of the North Bay, there's one other kind of noteworthy thing that happened right here, and that is the concert promoter Bill Graham. Okay, have you ever heard of Bill Graham Presents? He used to do all those rock shows back in the 60s in San Francisco with those amazing psychedelic posters. Well, Bill Graham was a big time concert promoter in the Bay Area and I think across the country, and he died in a terrible helicopter crash in 1990, I think, or 1991. Right here, he hit one of these power poles. I think it was the next one down or the one after that. And apparently it knocked power out in the area for like 30,000 people for something like 12 hours, and they had to shut this highway down for, oh God, 3 days while the NTSB did the investigation. It was terrible. I guess the pilot was just flying in bad weather. They were leaving some concert in the East Bay and trying to fly over to Sausalito. It was Bill Graham, his girlfriend, and the pilot, all tragically killed right here at the side of Fresh Air Dick Bridge. Boy, that's what I'm gonna call it from now on. Okay, dang it. To get to this ghost town, you have to take this road that winds through a winery. And look at that, I parked right in front of a bunch of tanks where I guess they're fermenting all these luscious green grapes they're growing in this vineyard. Look at that. It's making me thirsty. Actually, these are more like the grapes of wrath because I'm experiencing an immense amount of wrath right now, because the road is closed beyond this point, which, to be fair, I was expecting. According to the stuff I read online about this ghost town, you can drive most of the way to it, but then eventually you reach a locked gate and you have to walk the last mile. Unfortunately, it looks like the road is now closed much farther from the ghost town, and I just checked and now it's more like a 4-mile walk, which unfortunately I don't have time for today, but that just gives me an excuse to come back and do it another time. So if you want to see this mysterious ghost town languishing in the marshes of the San Francisco Bay on the edge of California's wine country, well, you're just gonna have to stay tuned.